if you can be in tune with your own body, you can be in tune with your own needs and own want. That's your wisdom. That is the wisdom that a lot of us are trying to pass off the responsibility of getting to others.
Too often, Black women are a mere afterthought in conversations around wellness, but not in this space. On this podcast, the dialogue is always centered around women like you. Welcome to the podcast, but more importantly, welcome to the tribe. Be well, sis. So the way that I like to start the show is I like to ask you how you're doing in 3 ways. PMS, so physically, mentally, and spiritually. And you can go as deep or as not as you want to.
If I want to. Physically, I'm feeling great. I am grateful for that. I've been navigating an autoimmune condition since last year. And I am seeing the regression of my symptoms, which is amazing. So I am very thankful for that. Very thankful. So physically, I'm feeling good. Could always want more sleep. Really could want more sleep. Always spiritually, I feel pretty sound. I think I'm going to be relying on my faith a lot in this chapter. I also feel like I'm grieving lives. I feel like I'm entering a new space and I've started to grieve a bit. Like my body is grieving. So that's something. That's another grief, it's like, I think my life there's uncertainties, there's all this stuff, and I'm navigating new questions when it comes to my career or steps forward with this organization, my business. And I'm allowing myself to rest a bit in that.
I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you for sharing. I never considered how we grieve the different eras in our lives, whether it's like personal, whether it's physical, whether it's professional. And I think we're taught to just keep pushing through, keep pushing forward. And the experience that we have, like mentally, spiritually, and then of course within our bodies, we don't give ourselves space to process that. So I'm happy you mentioned that. So I was telling you before we started recording how I have been a huge fan of your work and what you've brought forth. The reason I was introduced to Black Girl Breathing was because actually my therapist was like, girl, you need some additional tools. And here's this amazing platform, look into them. So I looked into it and I was like, all right, this is really cool. And I think at one point you were offering some sessions, like some donation-based sessions virtually. And I joined. And at that period, I had terrible insomnia. My body was so tired, but I just could not shut it off. And that session that I joined, I slept so sound, like the deepest sleep I had had in months. And I was like, oh my goodness, there is absolutely something to this. So my question for you is, how did you even arrive to this work? What led you here?
My journey to breathwork has been like many Black women's journeys when they find themselves at the crux of, I don't know what's going on in my life. I can't even pinpoint where the stress begins and ends. It just clouds my day. But I was working in corporate America. I was in New York, working at a large consumer goods products CPG company, global CPG company. And I was in beauty and the hair care industry. And I was young, and I was actually a part of this program that was supposed to take new graduates and put them on the same trajectory in less time than an MBA grad would be and become brand manager. And it was just, I was 22, 23 managing global, projects with like learning as I go. Like it was insane. It was a great learning. Intense. It set me up for success. It really did. Like it pushed me. And I had that foundation for understanding I'm going to be stressed from, I went to business school at NYU. And though no one said expect to be stressed, it was the environment. If you want to be successful in New York, you know what you got to do type deal. And I was in therapy at the time, but I just started having physical manifestations of my stress and was constantly going to the doctor, and they're like, this is stress. Like, what are we going to do? Like, what are you going to do? Is this stress? And I was volunteering at my church in Harlem at the time and their marketing team. And they recently launched a community center for all of Harlem to attend different classes and stuff. I had taken this breathwork class with my pastor's personal breath worker, and nothing had really shifted in my outside world. At the time, I was still in a stressful job that only got more stressful. I was in a relationship that what didn't realize was narcissistic at the time, and was still dealing with the effects of that. And the sensation I felt was that my mind just had space to not be so enclosed upon those thoughts that were like making me feel so anxious and my body
Mm-hmm.
really tight. The breath work just gave my mind space to breathe, the best way that
Mm-hmm.
I can put it. And I just kept going. And the tool ended up taking me through various points of my journey when I left corporate, when I, started my first business that did well, when I started my second business that failed. And then I felt called to get my breathwork training. And I saw so few of us in these trainings and thought, how can I, if this tool is helping us heal trauma in the body, I know I know my community needs this the most. How do I use my business background to provide this tool in an accessible way for us, for our community? So that's how I got here. And it's been a journey ever since. It's been a journey. I want to say we're almost six. We're in our fifth year.
Mm-hmm.
We're almost 6 years old as of January next month, or no, 2 months from now. Oh my gosh, it feels so weird to be like, two
Yeah.
months from now, the year is almost gone.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how I got into breath work in this tool. And I love it so much because it's accessible. We're all breathing. I always say, like, we're already doing breath work. Your body already knows how to do it. We're just being more intentional with our breaths. Our
Mm-hmm.
body breathes all the time. It's just a matter of how do we use its own systems, our parasympathetic nervous system, to get it more familiar with, oh, this is how my body needs to be breathing. Let me get out of this fight or flight mode. Let me get out of this tenseness that I've trained and conditioned my body because of where I grew up or, my taxing schedule to be, right? So we're just using breath work to retrain our nervous system to have a better natural response to daily stressors, anxieties, and trauma.
I love that you were first exposed to it through your pastor.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because I typically feel like the narrative is that like church is going to be what is going to be the cure all for everything. I love
Mm-hmm.
that your church involved different modalities to healing. Because yes, of
Yeah.
course, church in of itself has some healing properties, I guess. I don't know if that's the right
Yeah.
word, but like it's great that there's introduction to different ways, different paths to healing. So going back to breath work, you kind of touched on how breath work can help get us out of that sympathetic stimulated state. So
Mm-hmm.
people who are maybe unfamiliar with breath work, what
Yeah.
is breath work if we are always breathing anyway?
Yeah. So breath work in the most simplest terms is we're encouraging ourselves to have more intentional breaths. Because if you're already breathing, it's something your body naturally does. But
Mm-hmm.
then when we take time to really tune in and see what our body is doing, we may see that our breaths are shallow. We may see that we never get a full diaphragmic, inhale and exhale. And breath work, the formal definition I use, it's an active meditation, meaning that it is work, breath work.
Mm-hmm.
It's an active meditation that helps the nervous system reframe its response to traumas, triggers, anxiety, and stress. And so, what that means is that the parasympathetic nervous system, this is the part of the nervous system that's normally and naturally supposed to kick in when you experience any kind of stress, right? But what happens to the people who are chronically stressed and always in fight or flight in a heightened sense?
Mm-hmm.
Your nervous system has no room. It's really been conditioned to be at this state. So it's not in that relaxed state to where it will have the tools to, when you feel stress, automatically invoke you to take that deep breath or sigh or just these natural body responses that our body knows how to do its thing, right?
Yeah.
So what we're doing with breath work, we're retraining our nervous system. It's just like a muscle. We're trying to, shape and mold it to have a better response with the breath. And taking ourselves out of that heightened sense and of state, which also impacts our physical health as high cortisol, interrupts our hormones, then it's not being processed properly through our liver. Like the list goes on in the
Yep.
ways that chronic stress aids to and is the leading symptom for more physical diseases that Black women over-index in general on, and also fatalities, right? We aren't just diagnosed more, but we're dying more from
Dying
these
more.
diseases when we get them more than any other demographic, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, heart disease. And so when we take something that can be preventative like this and truly allow ourselves and our bodies to learn what it feels to mean you're at a rest state, you're at a
Mm-hmm.
grounded state, you can notice what's going on, you can notice how you feel. Because let's be real, when you're in a heightened state, most of us can't answer the question you had, like, how do you feel?
Yeah.
That also has to do with just being in a heightened state. You wouldn't know
Yeah.
where to start to locate a feeling. You've
Yeah.
suppressed it for so long. And so that's what breath work is and does. And you can do 3 rounds of a breath work pattern, like if I shared that with you now, and you'll feel at a grounded state. You don't necessarily need 30 minutes to an hour like you would in a breath work session, even though those longer sessions where you're guided just are so therapeutic. It
Mm-hmm.
really, really like, to your point, right? Your nervous system was like, well, finally, girl, like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
now we can go to bed tonight, right? Like
Yeah.
it just needed to just be tapped into and turned online. And so the vagus nerve, right behind our neck,
Mm-hmm.
is the largest nerve in our parasympathetic nervous system. And things like breath work, even I incorporate humming into breathwork patterns sometimes on our platform, on our Sunday Balm platform. That invokes the vagus nerve and just helps activate our parasympathetic nervous system. And so we really are just retraining our bodies one
Mm-hmm.
breath at a time. I think we're going to need that in the coming years, so that we're not so reactive. I think you're always reacting if you
Yeah.
aren't grounded, if
Yep.
you can't take a pause, if you can't find your peace,
Yep.
right? You need to be able to locate, find, and maintain your peace. You need to have a tool to where something is trying to disrupt your peace and you're able to activate that go within, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before, and then respond, right? And
Mm-hmm.
not
Yep.
have a reactive response. So
Yeah.
it's tools like this. And I love breathwork so much because it's accessible. There's
Yeah.
no movement required. There's no, like someone who may have difficulty moving can
Mm-hmm.
still use this.
Yep.
Even someone who may have limited lung capacity, you can
That's
still use this.
I love that. And to your point, in the coming years, we are absolutely going to need to be able to tap in and go within and to not be so reactive. So as we're recording this, today's date is November 15th, a week post the election results here in the US. And the Black women that I'm in community with are just like, I am just going to take a step back and I'm really going to pour into myself and into my community. I see a lot less reaction now. And I love that. And again, to your point, we're going to need more of these tools to really be able to make really sound decisions and to be clearer. Um, a friend of mine has challenged me for the past couple months to meditate every day. I don't meditate every day, but I've been trying to because my natural instinct is when I get stressed is to not sit, but to figure out how I can like get busy doing absolutely nothing. I'm not productive. But what I've noticed is that when I am still, I'm clearer of mind. Like I can actually process all the thoughts that are running through my mind. So I can imagine that breath work does the same thing.
Yes, yes.
Would you be able to give us a really short
Yeah.
example of
Yeah,
what we
let's
can
do
do,
it.
like whenever we're stimulated? Yeah.
Yes, I can absolutely share a quick exercise that you can do anywhere in the car, before a meeting. All you need is a couple of seconds, but to address the mind being so active that you mentioned when you meditate or if you have an active mind, the breath work is really great for focusing your mind on something
Hmm.
while you do it. Sometimes sitting meditation, those people can feel like, oh my gosh, like my mind is going. And I always like to say, your mind is doing its job, right?
Hmm.
Because anytime you get quiet, it's like, finally, some space for me to tell her all that she has to do. Don't forget
Hmm.
this to do list, and don't forget that, and
Yep.
this, and that, and this, and that. And your mind is just doing its job. But one thing that I like to say to those who are doing any kind of breathwork practice with me is that those first 5 to 7 minutes, it's common for your mind to just be like, la, 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 and you're like, okay,
Hmm.
go back to the breath. But yes, let's do some breath work together. So this is called the Oceanic breath. And it's called that because it literally sounds like that. It sounds like the ocean, right? So you're going to open your mouth as wide as possible.
Okay.
And you're going to inhale through your mouth, then exhale out of the mouth. Inhale through the mouth, exhale out of the mouth. And then let's do 3 rounds without stopping together. Okay. Already, don't you feel a little bit of, already it doesn't take that much, right?
Yeah, my shoulders feel a little bit better, and like my lower jaw was tingling. I'm not sure what that all means, but like it feels better. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can do that anywhere. And what I love about the Oceanic breath too, and just breath work in particular, is that you can invoke your other senses. So if your mind is having a hard time focusing, you can focus on how it sounds. You can focus on how your breath feels in your body, right? Like you can point somewhere your mind can focus on during the activity if you have an active mind. And as you do this work, you just become more aware of your body. I think that is the intelligence that we all speak, right? In our own journey. I can write a book and I write a book and give particular insights, but the main wisdom that I'm giving is tools for us all to better be aware of our own bodies, because my blueprint, what worked for me, and how I got from this area to this area of life, like, yes, that may help someone, those specific steps. But if you can be in tune with your own body, you can be in tune with your own needs and own want. That's your wisdom. That is the wisdom that a lot of us are trying to pass off the responsibility of getting to others, right? We kind of don't want to do the work sometimes. And the scariness of peeling back those layers within, it's easier to be like, oh, she's done it, I want to listen to this. And yes, there's, ways you can impart knowledge from people. But what I offer in this work, in this book, is how do you have a better relationship with your own body? We're using the breath to get past traumas, not just process in our mind, because as Black women, we've already done a lot of, I find Black women have already done a lot of mental talk therapy processing. And it's a matter of how do you heal the impact of those things that happen to you in the body, as that's where the trauma impacted your body, right? And trauma stored in the body, not the mind necessarily. And so how do we use the tool of breath work and our breath to heal that, then get to the root of some negative subconscious beliefs, then rewire those beliefs and how it makes us feel in our body, and then when we've done that work, we can choose a new lens to look out on life that isn't imparted by our past traumas and the things that have happened to us, or our mistakes, or our disappointments. It's that work that I'm offering in the book that I think is the most pivotal. My journey looks like my journey, but I want you to figure out what your journey is going to look like.
That's beautiful. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about how a lot of the conversation has been for the past couple of years, and I think it's going to be even more intensified, is about liberation and what does that look like for people. But in hearing you speak, it's super important that we first learn ourselves and really liberate ourselves from all of the trauma, whether we've experienced it and lived it ourselves or the things that we inherited, right? That we still have stored epigenetically. So I think getting in tune with our breath, with our body, first starts, is going to bring the liberation personally that we can then share, impart to the masses.
And as you mentioned liberation, I talk about what it looks like to be free in our community. So we've only experienced freedom fully internally. We have yet to realize that out in the world, right? And so that has been our reality. So when I'm doing this work, you bump against those thoughts of is this why am I bothering? It's not healing everyone's problems. It's not, but why I bother is that I know the impact of what 90 minutes of us being in a session together out, and feeling seen, feeling
Mm-hmm.
heard, the things we're going through being reflected back to us, and then having a space where we can process that, mentally and in our bodies and leave
Mm-hmm.
feeling lighter.
Mm-hmm.
And what that tool does for us individually, to provide us with the sustenance to go out in the world and do what we need to do to push the needle forward, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a specific chapter, Finding Freedom Amidst Oppression,
Mm-hmm.
that I talk about a lot of the tools of how we maintain that internal sense of freedom. And how, yes, I'm part of the wellness community, but I'm not someone who's going around being like, just breathe your way to freedom. I'm someone
Right.
who ignores the societal constructs of what that looks like for Black people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in that, how do we strengthen that internal sense of freedom? How do we honor generational joy once we're
Mm-hmm.
done processing the generational trauma and choosing a new set of beliefs for ourselves? And
Mm-hmm.
also honoring the hard work before us. I think sometimes we like to feel as if the things we're experiencing right now are so new. But go
Mm-hmm.
talk to your grandparents, go talk to some older people in your community. Ask them what they've been through, especially in
Yeah.
this community, in this country.
Yep.
Ask them what they've seen,
Yep.
and really harness and leverage the wisdom they have and the sustenance of that internal joy. There's no way, like, the fact that my 92-year-old grandmother can smile today is insane. She was a
Listen.
sharecropper. I talk about this in the book. A sharecropper from Money, Mississippi, the same town that Emmett Till was brutally murdered. And
Mm.
so it's going to be important that we harness that even more. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I can't speak to for other communities. That's a strength of ours.
No, I'm right there with you because you mentioned earlier about humming, how humming also
Mm-hmm.
stimulates the vagus nerve. And when you said that,
Mm-hmm.
I thought about how I feel like people don't hum no more. When I was a kid, the older people used to hum. They'd be
Mm-hmm.
sweeping, they'd be cooking, and they'd be humming.
Yes. Yes.
And that bringing it back to your grandmother and how she's able to
Yes.
smile is because we
Yes.
know deep within how to soothe ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
They were hummers. And again, we don't hum like
Yes.
that anymore. And I'm gonna start
Yes.
humming. And even like when we look at
Yes.
children are like, my little one is always
Mm-hmm.
doing things because,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
along the way we lose that. Mm-hmm.
Right. We lose sight of those tools that have always been at use, especially within our community. And I mentioned in the book how, uh, breath work can be stemmed to certain yogic practices and,
Mm-hmm.
Asian, Indian influences. But I also think that this comes from, I feel like there's aspects of this work that we've always been doing, like the humming and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
understanding that, from those who come from the African diaspora, our people were orators when they,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
did history. There wasn't a lot of written, it was orating. So it's just like,
Yep.
well, how much did we lose in that?
Mm-hmm.
And so that knowledge, so it's just like, no, this work is also a part of our community and something that we've always known.
Yep.
It's how we've been able to survive. And so, to your point, yeah, using the humming. And then when you're on the field, my grandmother was picking cotton 100 pounds a day, like they'd sing and
Wow.
hum and get through the day. They had their tools to get through that trauma.
Wow.
And we honed in on that internal sense of freedom. And that's something that we all have access to and we can get back to.
Wow. Mm. You just said 100 pounds of cotton a day.
Yeah, 100 a day.
I recently actually was able to like touch an actual cotton plant. It's not all that heavy individually. So for it to be 100 pounds, that is the work unimaginable.
Yeah.
Unimaginable. And again, for her to be able to now at 92 still smile and still have joy is in of itself a miracle, you know? So talk to me about how we've talked about it a little bit, about how breath work has the ability, we talked about how it can help us process our traumas. How does it bring about just mental clarity? And I guess like in the shorter term for those who are experiencing like acute stress, like right now.
It's a tool for us to focus somewhere outside of our thoughts and ground us, right? So what happens if you've ever experienced an anxiety attack, okay? I don't know if you have, but your chest tightens. If you've noticed, you may have even stopped breathing for a bit.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yep.
If you can just get your body to get back in a normal flow, your mind follows, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the connection between the brain, the stomach, and the parasympathetic nervous system, and how it all works together, right? Like if you're really able to tap in, calm those thoughts, even doing this work and seeing a decrease in the amount of stomach aches you have because of anxiety and stress, right?
Yeah.
Like you hear about these things and it's like, that's your nervous system, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in those moments where you feel heightened, and that spiraling thought pattern, like,
Yep.
when it just starts and it's just like, go,
Yep.
and I'm like, I don't know how did I
Yep.
get here?
Yep.
I'm
And
at
it's
the
all
base
bad.
of this and it's all, it's not
Yes.
helpful for me at all. And it's not needing for that feeling to be abandoned immediately. It's not for that thought to completely go away. It's just for you to allow your body to be balanced enough to give yourself a choice on how you want to respond.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need the feeling and thought to immediately go away. It's so impractical. It's okay. It's there. And the thought may even come from you saying like, I see you,
Mm-hmm.
this
Yeah.
doesn't really serve me right now. I want to ground myself. And the other day, you can do this so many different ways. I love to walk. And so walking and invoking some deep inhales, and the leaves are turning colors right now. And the
Yeah.
park I go to is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I'm probably gonna take a walk after this actually. And just allowing yourself to just be feet and
Mm-hmm.
feel your feet on the ground each step, and take a breath and look around and hear the birds and everything. And just, I'm here. And in this moment, I'm okay. I don't need to have it all figured out. I don't need to feel 100% one way. I can honor how I feel and I can be here with these feelings and allow myself to witness. And breathwork really allows and trains ourselves to have that kind of relationship with our emotions, one in which
Yeah.
we don't need to suppress. We don't need to avoid, because there's enough problems in the world with people avoiding their feelings, right?
Yeah.
But it allows us to just take stock and witness with compassion, and
Mm.
as really a third party witness. Like if you can step out of yourself and see like, okay, this is how I'm feeling, I allow it, I'm going to sit here with myself and allow myself to honor myself by witnessing myself in these emotions and not feeling the need to stuff down. And one affirmation I use a lot in this work, and I also mentioned in the book, is it's safe to feel in my body. It's safe to
Mm.
feel pain. It's safe to feel anger. It's safe to feel sadness. It's safe to feel grief. Because the biggest fear that we have if we feel that is that we'll stay stuck at the base of that feeling. That's
Mm-hmm.
everyone's fear. I don't want to stay stuck there.
Yeah.
Gotta get up. I can't
Yeah.
feel it. I can't feel it. If I go that low, I won't ever get back up. Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes
Ooh.
you have to go that low and explore a bit. Take that flashlight and be like, okay, I see what's down here. I've seen it.
Right.
I've done the heavy, like, yay, me. I went to the bottom to see what's really there. And I'm
Yeah.
making my way back up. And I'm like, okay, I know it's there now. I took a look. All right,
Yeah.
it's got this thing you're working. Okay, this and this, and then that. And so you don't have to be afraid of yourself anymore.
Oh,
You
my
don't have to be
goodness.
afraid of your feelings, right? You don't have to be afraid of what comes up for you. You can embrace those things more compassionately
Yeah.
and then know that they're there. So when you find yourself in a heightened state, you say, okay, I know that's down there. So I probably don't want to do this thing because it's not kind to the little girl who experienced that. I want to make a different decision. Right.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's
Ooh.
really,
Yeah.
that's what we're doing with the breath, right? Like that relationship to our thoughts, our beliefs, the present moment. It
Yeah.
all comes down to, you got to help your body out. Your body really knows how to get through this stuff, right? Like look at a dog. We talked
Right.
about children, right? My little pup,
Mm-hmm.
rest in peace, Mozart. But when he was tired or
Mm-hmm.
frustrated, you would hear him in the corner.
Yeah.
Natural
Yes.
auditory
Yes.
release.
Yes.
Aside, that's
Yep.
what our bodies do, right?
Yep.
We have these responses that connect to our feelings, connect to how our bodies are processing normally. But we've been conditioned in a society that shames them, that encourages us to repress them. And
Yep.
then we also, and something I talk about in the book, like where's the compassion for the fact that, hey, y'all, we're societally conditioned for this. We
Truly.
get 1 or 2 days for bereavement.
Which is wild.
Like,
Yep.
don't tell nobody you got a mental health day. They will look at you sideways, depending on what company you at. You can't really say specifically it's a
Right.
mental health day, right?
Right. Yep.
Just these ways in which we've societally been conditioned to not make
Yeah.
space for ourselves. And then as Black
Truly.
women, the consequence that comes with it.
Yeah.
I talk about this in the book. Like, I
Yeah.
can't tell you, start those boundaries up and act like you may not have a consequence at work
Yep. Yep.
for enacting a boundary as
Yep.
a Black woman.
Yep. Now she has
That-
an attitude. Now she's
Yes.
difficult. She's hard to work with. This, that, and the other thing, for sure.
So
Yep.
there's fear. There's normal fear and very real fear to us taking up more space. And I completely understand, acknowledge, see, and validate that. And then, like I said, I dive more into that in the book, but it really is a resource that truly takes account of what it means like to be more grounded, to be more well in today's society for us as Black women without the need to lie and gaslight our experience.
Yeah.
Because that's real too, right? If you're able to I hold both because I've done that in this work. And I just hope we feel seen in it.
Yeah. Listen, as you were talking, I for those who are watching on YouTube, like I've been nodding my head the whole time because I'm thinking to myself, well, dang, ain't nothing about me unique. Because when you mentioned the avoiding certain things, like I don't want to go that deep because I've been there before. I don't want to get stuck there. That literally is a thought like, oh man, I don't want to feel this pain or this anger, this sadness because I've been deeply depressed before and I don't want to go back there. I'm scared I might get stuck there. That is so real. So real. So thank you for pointing that out and just verbally giving us the permission, like just, it's okay to explore it for a second, take a peek. It's a part of you, and then you can move away, whenever you're ready. So.
And trust trust yourself. You've got the tools now.
True.
You've got the tools now. In the former chapter, maybe you had a different set of tools. You didn't have the tools that you do now. So when you go back down and you take that climb back down there with your flashlight, you've got a different toolbox with you this time. True. So it's like, you can get your foot untangled from some things, you know what I mean? And climb back up. So you've got more tools now and you don't have to be afraid of what you might find in this current chapter.
That is a beautiful point. Thank you. So I am, of course, going to put the link down below in the show notes. Go ahead and purchase this book, not only for yourself, but for your sister, your mom, your coworker, anybody that you're in community with. I know we can all find something really helpful and beautiful for us in our individual and collective journeys towards wellness. I flashed the book. Yes. Beautiful, beautiful. Please, again, go buy it for yourself and for somebody in your life as well. Buy 2 copies. It's super helpful. We need all the tools that we can for our tool belt, for our toolkits, to move forward. So before we wrap up, I have 2 more questions for you. The first one is, where do you see Black girls breathing evolving into, or if you have that answer quite yet.
We've had our mission of reaching 1 million, and I'm going to keep the time of 2025. I'm going to stand by that declaration because I also recognize when I set that declaration and the forecasting we were doing with partners and stuff, and then we had a complete rollback on DEI. We have a new administration, but I'm maintaining because in my spirit, I haven't gotten the word yet to change that. And so impacting 1 million Black women and girls by 2025. Also, we do a lot of work in behind the scenes on health equity from a systemic level. So really partnering with health companies to better educate them on how to connect with our communities and also be the partner that's doing that. As lots of times it's not us trying to connect with us and then they're wondering why the results aren't what they want them to be.
Right.
So doing that kind of work, but honestly, I have been in such, I want to see what happens in the world in the next couple of years, honestly. And my game plan may change. I'm going to be talking about this book for a long time and building our community up and prioritizing myself as well. I think I've been doing a great job on that recently of walking what I talk.
So the second question is, right now, what is something that's bringing you some joy?
Ooh, oh my gosh. Okay, so what's been okay? So I had to record this audio book, right? And I ended up meeting an audio engineer who's actually friends, and this friend is all the way in New York with the guy, one of my best friends, who does all of our videos for our platform, our Black Girls Reading platform, Sunday Bomb. And we made that connection. I was like, I had an idea that I want to do spoof songs for the marketing of the book. Like, I don't want to do, like, it's heavy. It can be heavy, even though I feel like I make it kind of light and you know what I mean? And I just want to have fun with it. And so yesterday I had did a whole video to Mariah Carey's Heartbreaker, but it's Breathworker, you guys. It's like a whole
Best
thing
of me. Right? I love it.
And it's just like, I had so much fun. I was smiling so hard. And then we've got a couple other songs that we're doing. And that brought me so much joy, because to have an idea, and this is a practice for me, and I talk about this in the book, right? No perfection. I'm having fun. I am allowing the inner child in me, and not even the inner child, but the adult in me to have a good time and foster childlike play. And it was so much fun. And I can't wait to do the rest of them. And it's like, I'm going to do this for the marketing of this book, because why not? I'm having a good time. So that's bringing me joy. My walks are bringing me joy. Connecting intentionally in community is bringing me joy. It being around the holidays, and I've decided to wear Christmas pajamas last night and get apple cider. I know, I was like, you know what? Just, okay, fine. Because it's like, it's being imposed on me everywhere I look. The Christmas stuff has already started. So I was like, you know what? Fine. I'm just going to lean into it and just evoke all that joy. And then hearing people's reviews to the book is bringing me joy. It's definitely a labor of love. And I've made intentions with it, and I just hope that they manifest, that everyone is able to get the tools that they need and it can carry us in this time. And I do feel like I was blown away when I'm like, oh, wow. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I wrote about that, because the book is such a long process that you're doing 1,000 things. You're like, oh, I said that. Yeah, I remember I said that. And it feeling right for a time like this. So I'm hoping that it will be the resource that I expected it to be. I feel like we should offer your community a coupon code to join us if they get the book. And so we have our Sunday Bomb platform. We just actually finished wrapping our scholarships for those who couldn't afford. But they'll be, if you join our email list at blackgirlsreading.com under the About section and tap email, if you can afford, you can get on that list, and we'll announce when we're opening back our scholarships again. But the platform is $19.97 a month, but I'm going to offer 50% off. So $9.97. We're going to we've got online breathwork videos, live classes and sessions, extended dialogue and content on the platform as well.
Thank you so much, Jasmine Marie. This has been just beautiful. So thank you for listening, and thank you for all that you put out into the world and out of your obedience.
Thank you. Thank you for being receptive to it and stumbling into it and inviting me on this podcast. I so appreciate it. Thank you for seeing me, because that's what this does for me. I feel seen and appreciated in this work. It's definitely not easy.
I can imagine.
But these moments remind me to keep going, that it's needed, and to take care of myself while I'm doing it. So thank you.
Absolutely. And we are going to continue to support. We are going to buy the book, not just one, friends. We're going to buy two, one for us, one for somebody else. It's perfect for the holidays, especially, and for the New Year reset. So typically people are like, oh, new year, new me, new practices. I'm going to be better to myself. What a beautiful way, by just being intentional with your breath. So learning how to do that through the book. So thank you for your time. And again, for all that you've done and put out into the world. We're so grateful. Appreciate you.
I received that. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Be Well Sis. If you'd like to get in touch with us, there's a link in the show notes. Be Well Sis is hosted by me, Dr. Cassandra Dunbar, and produced by Edit Audio. Don't forget to hit follow so you never miss an episode. Until next time, be well, sis.